The coronavirus pandemic has obviously hit governments and societies across the world very hard. The general feeling is that the virus is bad news for democratic freedoms and civil society across the world. It certainly is the case that civil society organizations in many countries are facing more severe restrictions as a result of the pandemic. But there is another side to the story as well. We asked experts from our network from diverse countries around the world to reflect on the ways in which civil society actors in their countries are responding to the crisis.
There are three kinds of responses that the progressive civil society in India got itself into. One is the emergency response, which included cooked food, rations, shelter for people in the cities, homeless in the cities. There's an inspiring case of Muslim women in the city of Bombay feeding almost 100,000 hungry people in the city. The second is the medical assistance and availing PPEs to communities. And the third and very important one is continuing the political and administrative critique of this government and their weak response to COVID-19 crisis. And this critique actually made sure that the Modi government had to shift away from a very dramatic populist actions like clanging of utensils, lighting of lamp, all in the name of thanking health workers, to the actual COVID battle of raising the number of tests, preparing infrastructure for hospitals, etc.
Thailand was the first country after China to have confirmed cases of the coronavirus. So doctors started feeling the pressure of the crisis and called for the government support. To do this, they turned to advocacy by posting pictures on their social media accounts of hospitals lacking surgical masks and other necessary medical supplies. They also popularized the hashtag work from home or stay home for everyone long before the government's lockdown. Even more, medical associations have issued statements that inform the public about the seriousness of the pandemic.
Here in Zimbabwe, organizations like the Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights, who have in the past defended political rights, the freedom of association and political assembly, seem to have refocused and are zooming in on protecting and defending citizens' rights within the context of the lockdown, because we have had one too many incidences where citizens have been harassed and assaulted by the police and soldiers who will be enforcing the lockdown regulations. So we have had the Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights approaching the High Court on behalf of citizens who have been victimized by the police, seeking a protection, and this was successful because the court then has ordered the state to protect and to uphold human rights.
In the Global South, the health crisis generated by the pandemic is also a humanitarian crisis because of two factors: very high levels of economic inequality and the weak capacity of the state to implement public policies that protect the poor population. In this context, what we have witnessed in the past few weeks is many initiatives by civil society organizations that have stepped up to try and fill the void of the state in the poorest communities in the region. We have good examples coming from Brazil. One is of the Coletivo Papo Reto, which means Straight Talk Collective. It's an organization that has for many years been dedicated to denouncing police abuse in Rio de Janeiro slums, and in the context of the pandemic has repurposed its mission and is now doing a lot of work coordinating donations of food and cleaning supplies.
In Romania, CSOs have formed several coalitions in the context of the pandemic, but compared to the confrontational relationship with the previous government focused on anti-corruption, they have been fairly collaborative. Many CSOs have actually refocused their activities on service delivery to help provide medical supplies and participated at consultations with the government to contribute to the crisis response measures.
Across the MENA region at the moment, with the holy month of Ramadan, we have in history always seen a massive trend of charitable organizations and support to those particularly vulnerable communities and the poorest people. And what we are seeing is a massive trend to both step in where the state is unable to provide support, particularly with the closure of mosques and large charity iftar gatherings, and already established civil society expand their activities across wider parts of regions and countries to be able to support communities during Ramadan under COVID-19.
In Tunisia, many CSOs repurposed their work to fight and confront COVID-19. A nationwide organization such as iWatch, that usually works against corruption, is now a crisis management organization that distributes masks, that records videos about how to confront COVID-19, that disinfects public spaces, etc. Local CSOs are doing the same at a local level, fundraising door-to-door to buy masks and so on.
Governments' responses have awoken many fears that regimes are using emergency measures to tighten their restrictions on and repression against civil society. But civil society globally is also rethinking its own strategies. One might speculate that into the future, the balance between these restrictive elements of the virus on the one hand and these more civic elements on the other hand will be a very important gradient in determining the overarching political impact that the virus has in different places of the world.